Check, check. Test 1, 2. All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the monthly meeting of the City of Des Moines Zoning Board of Adjustment. This board has the power under Iowa law and the zoning ordinance of the City of Des Moines to hear and make decisions on requests for variances and exceptions from the regulations in the zoning ordinance, to review conditional use requests, and to consider any appeals from any decision of city staff in the administration of the zoning ordinance. The members of this board are citizens of the City of Des Moines. They have been appointed to this board by the City Council. The board members are volunteers and receive no compensation for their public service. I'll take a moment to introduce our board members here today. On the audience's right is Tom DeCio. Next to him is Dave Gare. Next to Dave is Rhonda Cedillo. I'm Mel Pins, the board chair. On my right is Marlis Jones. Next to Marlis is Mr. Julian Neely, our new member of the board. This is Julian's first meeting. We recently had a resignation by Mr. Cuckoo Sa, who had been the Ward 3 appointee. Cuckoo had a bunch of new stuff going on, so he stepped down after about a year of service. So Julian was recommended for appointment by Councilman Mandelbaum and approved by the City Council. Julian's a Des Moines native, lives on the northwest side, works for the Polk County Housing Trust Fund, and has done a whole bunch of stuff in community engagement experience over a number of years. So Julian, we welcome you as a fellow resident and somebody who knows the town. Glad to have you with us. And our seventh member of the board is Heather Rowe. Heather is joining us remotely today. She's doing some, I believe, some traveling. So we do have our 7-member board. I'll also introduce the city staff who will be assisting the board in the hearing process today. On my left is Gary Guidelock, the board's legal counsel. On the audience's left, along the wall here, along the table, we have Frank Dunn Young, senior city planner. Bert Drost, the Deputy Planning Administrator, Emily Duffy, Counsel with the City Attorney's Office, Chris Heilskove, Zoning Enforcement Officer, and Michelle Wall, right down here in front, is our meeting moderator and runs a lot of the magic with the computers and the audio-video. I'm going to cover the meeting's procedure here briefly. For some of you, this may be your first time in front of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. You may hope it's your only time. But we'll help you through the hearing process. So don't worry about the process. We will take you through that. Everybody will have an opportunity to present their case, their facts, their opinions. But first and foremost, the Zoning Board of Adjustment is a quasi-judicial board. This hearing will be conducted within the procedures and format as authorized by Iowa law and this city's ordinances. The meeting is open to the public. The meeting is being recorded by both audio and video for a legal record of the proceedings. The board members have each received a copy of the agenda and the staff recommendations. If you don't have a copy of the agenda and staff recommendations, they're in the little black trays here just to the left of the door as you enter the room. So if you need to step up and grab one, feel free to do so. This board is required to base its decision on each item upon the criteria established by law for the type of relief sought by the applicant. The law applicable to each case has been identified in the written staff report. If the facts, as determined by this board, demonstrates that the criteria established by law for granting the relief has been satisfied, then the board must grant the relief. Otherwise, the board must deny the requested relief. Each item will be announced in the order that it appears on the agenda. Items listed on the consent portion of the agenda, which is our first section of the agenda, are not planned to be individually discussed. Rather, they will be considered for approval, along with the recommendations in the staff report, unless there is an individual of this audience or a member of this board that requests that the item be removed from the consent agenda so that a full discussion on the matter can occur before a decision is made. So I'll come back to the consent agenda here in just a little bit. For the regular portion of the agenda, after an item is announced, city staff will first give a brief overview of the appeal, and they will present any written comments that have been received prior to the hearing. Then the applicant or their representative will be allowed up to 10 minutes to present their appeal. We'll then move to the public comment portion of the hearing for that item. Anyone that wishes to speak in support of, in opposition to, or even in neutrality with related facts will be allowed up to 5 minutes each to provide their comments. This will be their one and only opportunity to address the board regarding the item at hand. Once all concerned citizens have spoken, the board will then ask any additional questions of city staff. And lastly, the applicant will be given 3 more minutes for a rebuttal or other closing comments if they so choose. All speakers must speak only from the podium. And if you are going to speak, you'd have to come to the center of the room here. We've got the microphone there. You must give your presentation by giving your complete name and address of business or residence as appropriate. In the event you may need to be contacted for legal notices related to the outcome of this appeal. And when you do step up to the microphone to speak, we have a little sign-in sheet there, so if you just put down your name and your address as appropriate, that'll help us make sure we have accurate names on the record. All speakers are requested to remain courteous and to focus their comments only upon those facts that demonstrate whether or not the criteria established by law has been satisfied. Speakers are also asked to be respectful of time considerations, and if necessary, the board chair will limit further comments by a speaker if they exceed their time limitation. After all comments have been received, the board chair will then close any further public comment on the agenda item. The board will immediately deliberate the request and will make a decision here today on that appeal item. Please note that it always takes at least 4 affirmative votes of the 7 members for any zoning appeal to gain approval. If your appeal is approved today, we ask that you would wait until about 1 week from today's hearing if you'd need to contact the city's Permit and Development Center to obtain any necessary building or sign permits that are related to your appeal. This will allow the decision of the board to be documented in the form of a decision and order. That document will be provided to you and city staff for the record. Any appeal that is approved by this board must be implemented, constructed, or otherwise utilized within 2 years of the date of the board's approval, or such approval shall expire. Finally, the decisions of this board can only be appealed in the Iowa District Court. So if you feel you've been harmed by an error made by this board, your only remedy is to seek relief through the court within 30 days of the filing of the board's decision and order. If you believe the zoning regulations applied by this board are wrong, you may petition the City Council to change those regulations, but only for future considerations. Any material written or otherwise used today as part of any presentation is part of the permanent record. If there's anything you want to present today, like pictures, drawings, or documents, you can do so, but you'd need to give copies to city staff for the record if you have not done so already. Also, if you'd like to have a copy of anything presented today, you can ask city staff after the hearing, and they'll get you appropriate copies. Just some quick housekeeping items. We'd ask please avoid any undue conversation in the audience so as to limit distractions from the hearing. So far, so good. Please ensure your cell phone's been silenced. And if you need to use a restroom, you can just leave through the doors. You don't have to go back downstairs. There's restrooms past the staircase on your left. Once your agenda item has been completed, you're welcome to leave the meeting, or you can stick around and learn and be entertained as well. We'll have a 5-minute break in the meeting around 3 o'clock if the hearing would go past that time. So that's our background information. So I'm going to ask, I think Frank is going to pop up our posted agenda. And Frank, do we have any changes or recommendations for change in the agenda?
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board. Staff is recommending that item 2, as I scroll to it, within the vicinity of 1215 30th Street, be moved consent. They're proposing installation of transmission equipment on a wireless support structure to include placement of telecommunications base station, antenna, and shroud on existing building, along with distribution box, cabinets, cabling, and other ancillary equipment in a fenced compound. This is part of their removing equipment that is right across the street to the west, and so they are proposing to place it on top of, at the Drake campus, on top of some buildings there on the west quadrant of the campus. Any wireless telecommunications facility of this nature requires conditional use. So that's why we're here today. No opposition. They are satisfying the requirements that we look for in a site plan building plans review, and they have agreed to the conditions.
Okay, and Frank, in this case, this isn't like the installation of a big tall monopole or anything like that. This is on a building, and there's already some existing stuff there, and they just be adding to it, correct?
Well, what they're adding is they're adding 3 shrouds to the top of the building. The shrouds are, I forget the exact dimensions, it's in the report, but they'd be adding those. They're stealth shrouds. They would house the equipment in them. They're concealed, so you'd see boxes on top of each of those buildings.
So as shrouds, ideas, they help screen and protect the transmission equipment. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Well, staff is recommending that we just move this to consent rather than have a full hearing on the item. Is there anybody in the audience that would be opposed to this board granting the requested conditional use permit for the installation of that transmission equipment and shrouds? If there is, just raise your hand for the moment. Anybody opposed to us granting that? All right, seeing none, anybody here on the board that would want us to hear this? If there is none, would there be a motion to move item 2 to consent? Motion by Marlis, second by Rhonda. All those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. And I'm going to poll Heather.
Aye.
Very good. All right, motion carries 7-0. So item 2 is on consent, so I'm going to go back now, our consent agenda. Item 1 is a zoning exception request. It looks pretty big, but it's all related to miscellaneous signage around the Des Moines airport as related to our awesome new terminal and a lot of the changes that are going on with, how people move around the property. So it'd be the installation of 14 signs near driveways and about the airport campus. Is there anybody in the audience that would be opposed to this board granting the requested zoning exceptions so long as they meet staff rec? Anybody in the audience? All right, so seeing none, board members, we have items 1 and 2 on consent. If there'd be any other discussion or you'd want item 1 moved, so say. If not, would there be a motion to grant approval of items 1 and 2?
I will motion.
Rhonda, second by Marlis. All those in favor, raise your right hand. And Heather?
Aye.
All right, we're doing great here. For participation with everybody, that carries 7-0. So if you were here for items 1 and 2, they've been approved, subject to staff requirements there and their recommendations, and we'll get you a copy of that decision in order in about a week. So if you're here for item 1 and 2, you're welcome to leave the hearing. And we'll move on to our regular portion of the hearing here. And our first item for discussion is item 3. It's a zoning variance request at 2603 Douglas Avenue related to, it looks like, retention of an existing freestanding pole sign. And I think Frank will give us the background here.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board, Frank Dunn, planning staff. Item 3 is located at 2603 Douglas Avenue. The proposal is retention of an existing freestanding pole sign with a 6-foot tall by 10-foot wide, 60 square feet internally illuminated main cabinet, and a 5-foot tall by 8.5 foot wide, 42.5 square feet internally illuminated changeable cabinet. It has a maximum height of 30.66 square feet. This would be in addition to an existing non-illuminated wall sign that's approximately 44 square feet on the south-facing frontage wall. A variance of the provision that prohibits a pole sign in the MX3 district is what's being requested. I'm going to scroll through some slides here so we can get some context. And so you'll see this property is located on the south side of Douglas Avenue. The property is almost 32,000 square feet. It's in between Douglas Avenue and West Martin Luther King. There is a building that's approximately 4,500 square feet in area. Currently, the owner, who also occupies the garage, Nate's Garage, is here today. The property is zoned MX3 Mixed Use District. And so I am going to kind of show the situation of the property. This is a site plan that they had submitted. And so as you can see along Douglas Avenue, they have an existing pole sign that's right here at the front of the lot. And then access, drive, building, and then the remainder of their property. This is the sign that exists there today. And here is a photo of the wall sign that exists. And I'm going to scroll out. In a site visit, I took these photos so you can kind of see what it would look like from a what would be a west-facing view. And let's see. Okay, and this one's a little closer. I just wanted to give you a better image of Nate's Garage. And then this would be facing northeast. And then this one's facing northeast as well. Takes both of the sign into context. Sorry, my Zoom constraints are moving around on me. The previous use of the property was a contractor's office. The appellant, the owner and operator of Nate's Garage, has converted this space to auto repair shop. Anytime we see a conversion of this nature, it would be considered a change of use, which triggers compliance with applicable site plan regulations, which include the removal of any prohibited signs. There's another trigger as well, and that is a vacancy of longer than 6 months, which also triggers the removal of the existing pole sign. And so there's been a determination that both those things have occurred, so they are required to remove it, and that is why they're here in front of us today. The only exceptions that we have to allow a pole sign would be if there is no feasible location to place a monument sign due to vision clearance concerns. Now, for this particular site, we noted that there are numerous places to place a monument sign that would be set outside of vision clearance. And so we see that they have options for a monument sign and a wall sign if they so choose, so there are options. Anytime we have a variance of this nature, they are required to demonstrate that they have a hardship. And as part of the hardship test, they're required to demonstrate that the property cannot yield a reasonable return from any use permitted in the zoning district, and the plight of the owner is due to unique circumstances, not of the owner's own making, and that the use are construction authorized by such variance would not alter the essential character of the area. Staff, in reviewing that, we do not believe that's the case. We believe that there's other places to put signs and that there are other uses for the property that are permitted by code. And so staff is recommending denial. And we did receive we send out mailings to the neighborhood associations and to neighbors within 250 feet. Lower Beaver Avenue neighborhood is the primary for this property, and then Prospect Park is the just within 250 feet of the property. So we did receive some response back from folks. And this is a comment card in opposition. We have a comment card in support. And what questions do you have for staff?
Board members, any questions for Frank? Frank, just a brief one, just as a reminder for myself and our board members. When we talk about not allowing pole signs, we've had a city ordinance for what, 10 years now maybe, that, hey, we don't allow pole signs to be constructed with new development. And as you referenced, if a business is discontinued for more than 6 months, there's no property use, or the type of use is a big change, then in essence, those pole signs aren't allowed to be grandfathered in to be reused or re-signed. Is that correct?
That is correct. The city code would expect that those signs would be taken down.
And the concept behind that is we're trying to bring our signage down to scale with our neighborhoods and corridors. Like, I think we used to have like Hardee's restaurants had like 40-foot tall pole signs on Ingersoll and Euclid, not to focus on anything else. But I see here right to the west of this site where Plaza Lanes had been that burned. I think Randy Thompson, good guy, had been the owner there. That's being redeveloped. So from square one, they can't put up a new pole sign. They'd have to do a monument sign, correct?
That would be correct. Yes.
So then the concept is this is how eventually, with changes in uses or changes in vacancies, then we bring our signs down to scale with what the intent is of the zoning ordinance, right?
Correct.
Okay. From your perspective, was any hardship case presented as the request for the variance? I can ask the applicant.
I did not see a merit for demonstrating a hardship there.
Well, we can visit with them. Excellent. All right. If there's nothing else from the board, all right. So the way the hearing process worked, now it's the applicant's turn. So whoever would like to represent the applicant, step on up. You've got up to 10 minutes. And you can share your time if you'd like, but you've got 10 minutes. We just need you to each give your name, appropriate address, and just put your names down there on the sign-in sheet. And you can take a few seconds to do that.
Hello, I'm Nathan Baumhover. I'm actually the owner and operator of Nate's Automotive. I do want to say a couple things in regards to, he said the building had been vacant for more than 60 days. I bought the building less than a month after Bob Paluzzi, which had the construction company, moved out. That pole sign's been there, in operation, maintained, and serviced for the last 30, 40 years. That grass strip that is out there only gives me about 2 to 3 foot to be able to put a pedestal sign in there, and every pedestal sign I've looked at needs a bare minimum of almost 6 feet around in order to plan it, base it, and make sure it's secure properly. The pole sign, like I said, has been maintained. We've paid a sign company to put a sign in when we first moved in, and then we're dealing with this rezoning of going back to automotive use. Before Bob Paluzzi had the construction company in there, there was an Amco transmission building and Randy's Automotive. They all had automotive shops in there, and they've all had use and utilization of that sign. If you're driving west up Douglas Avenue, you can drive right past the building and not even notice it's there. That sign does draw attention to it, allows people to see where I'm at, to be able to give them a good pinpoint to see where to turn in at. If that sign's not there, there's a lot of people that drive by day in, day out, and will miss our building, miss the place, and everything else. I'm just asking for a variance to keep it there, so that way I can keep it maintained. I'm not asking for anything fancy. I'm trying to apply by everything that you guys are asking to get back into the zoning compliance. This is just the one thing that I would ask to try to keep. Outside of that, is there much anything else?
That sounded pretty good to me.
All right, yeah, that's pretty much all I really have to say. I'm just asking for a little leeway with it, just keep it there. Like I said, it's been maintained, signs in it, and I mean, I don't really have a whole lot of sign to put up another pedestal sign like you guys say, per code to the code. The concrete actually runs all the way to the edge of the building, so there's no grass area on that side. The building touches the property line. Randy's and them have tore up and actually destroyed a lot of stuff alongside my building, and because of them, I've flooded out 3 times. So that's another issue. But the pole sign mainly is what I'm just asking for a little leeway on.
Okay, so Nate, would you be willing to take some questions from the board?
Sure.
Board members, any questions? Yeah, go ahead. Julian.
Can you clarify how many days after or when you purchased the property within the parameters of the city code?
So Bob Cluzy moved out, and then it was a week or 2 later, I signed the purchase agreement, and I moved in a week after that. So within 30 days, I was moving in the building, and then I had a new sign up. Within 2 weeks, I would be in there. So it's been less than 40, 45 days before that sign was changed out. And when he moved out, his sign stayed in the pole sign, and then mine was put in place of his. The company that put my sign in actually took his out. And I actually still have it in the way inside the building, too, so. That's, yeah.
Nate, related to that, when you were looking at purchasing the property, did you contact the city to say, hey, I'm going to buy this, and this is what I want to do here? What are the rules? What do I need to think about?
No, actually, I didn't do that. It was kind of I put the cart before the horse a little bit. I was in the building just to the east of there. I was renting it as an automotive
Okay.
shop, and I started to the point where I needed more space. And then I became friends with Bob Cluzy, and he offered me the building for sale, so
Okay.
I jumped on it before anybody else did.
And did your sign, you said you worked with a sign contractor to get a new sign face installed. Did they take out a sign installation permit?
I would have to contact them.
Okay.
I would believe he did. I'm not certain. It was kind of a...
Just curious if you knew off the cuff.
I really don't know. I can't answer that question correctly.
Okay, all right. I think staff presented that within their interpretation of the ordinance, it isn't just the time period, it's the change of use of the property. It went for what's kind of like office professional to automotive repair, which is a pretty big change in use.
He had a construction company, so it was a construction storage facility.
Okay.
And before that, it was another mechanic shop. And then before that,
Yeah.
it was the AMCO transmission shop.
Okay,
And they've been there since the 80s. So, I mean,
Got it.
it's been a long time.
okay. All right. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, you guys can sit down for a minute. We'll check in with you here in just a few. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in support of the applicant's request? Anybody in the audience that wishes to speak in opposition to the applicant's request? Or even in neutrality? All right, seeing none, do we have any further questions for staff? I've just got one here, and I don't know who would want to answer this one. But this is considered a change in use because it went from this office construction to auto repair. And are those two uses allowed in that district together?
Well, Chair, members of the board,
Yes.
good afternoon. Zoning Enforcement Officer Chris Elskov. To address a couple things there that were raised, we do have entry in our case notes about a vacancy that was established. In 2020, there was no water usage there. So it isn't just that somebody moved in, it's they have to be lawfully established. So Yes, that would be considered a change of use between an auto repair, a contractor's business, construction company, and a auto repair shop. So the two triggers are enacted there, both.
And when you say there was no water use or water utility, that's over a period of, what, 6 months or more?
Yeah, greater than 6 months.
Okay, so if somebody was actively using the property for the intended business that they advertise, they'd probably be flushing toilets or using water or something.
Right. That's one of the triggers we can look to give us guidance as to whether something's been lawfully established or somebody's actually operating in there. We want to see them go through the whole development and design process prior to operation to get that lawfully established.
Okay. And you also, I'm assuming, would look at things like if I pull up during, on a Tuesday at 10 in the morning, is there activity? Is there business hours posted? Are there employees and customers present? And I'm assuming you didn't see
Right.
any of that general activity.
Yeah, that's according to our staff's entries into the case notes.
Okay. And finally, I know the appellant mentioned, well, I really wouldn't have room to put a monument sign or one that's big enough. And I know this looks like a proposed site plan, not an approved one. It doesn't show a monument sign, but to the best of your knowledge, would the site plan, an approvable one, give them enough room to put a monument sign there?
That's really based on the design.
Right.
It's kind of hard to say right in there.
Sure.
It is tight, I would agree. And they do have a submitted site plan. So they are working with our planning staff right
Okay.
now to work through the other design issues
Okay.
on the property.
And I'm assuming this was discussed pretty much in detail with them before they filed their appeal.
At a pre-application meeting.
Right. Okay, got it. All right, any other questions for Chris? All right, thank you. Applicant, you can have 3 minutes for rebuttal or other closing comments. I always give that as a courtesy. If there's anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, I will say, one of the reasons why Bob Paluzzi was selling the building is because he had actually purchased another building. He still had most of his property, his vehicles in there. He had moved part of the office use to his new building, still maintained the property, kept up stuff on it, and if it was correct, if I was informed correctly from Bob, it was office storage area. So there was still storage in there. The building was cram-packed full up until the week I bought it, or made the purchase agreement on it. And then also another thing he had mentioned to me, when Bob Paluzzi bought the building from Amco Transmission or Randy, whoever it was that had it, why was he not required to tear the pole sign down? Why was he granted a variance, and why am I being denied? I wanted to bring that to awareness. He kept a sign in it, he kept it maintained, and as he said, it may have been peopleless inside of it, but he was still using it for what it was required for, his construction office. So he kept his tools, equipment, trucks, vehicles there. There was people in and out of the building. It may not have been at correct times because, construction doesn't happen in one place. It happens all over the place. So that's just kind of one of the things I wanted to bring a point up to.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you, Nate. All right, we'll close the public portion then and go to board deliberation. Any thoughts?
I understand why the pole sign is attractive. I understand why the pole sign is attractive to them, and they do have a concern that they would lose business because of the signage is a ways off the road. But how many of us don't use GPS these days to get to a location? And we can get there that way. They could tell people, you really need to watch for our building. I don't think the pole sign should be there.
Okay, thank you. Any other thoughts?
Board Member Julian Ely.
Yes.
A couple of things. The building is far behind there, and then with the new development that's there, also I'm curious to see how that possibly could influence either business traffic or impact the flow of business to their business. And there's still some clarity that I think is needed in regards to this timeline of purchase and also the documentation of their new business being established and how that all correlates together, to kind of help have a better understanding of when everything happened and what date are we basing things on. I think that would be helpful, because it sounds like, according to the gentleman, that Birch is still within a week. The previous owner still had things in there, so there's still some confusion in regards to if the building was still underneath the old business, or if it was attached to the new business, when the new business was established and fully took over the rights and began to operate business, to kind of, and like which date is being used to determine whether or not it's out of order.
Good points all the way around. These are sometimes tough ones. One of the reasons I asked Nate is, like, if you're going to buy something, you usually want to check and see what the rules, regulations are. He said, no, I didn't really do that. Well, if you're going to put up a new sign and spend money on it, check and see if, do I need a permit for this? Doesn't appear that was done. I can only go with what's presented at the hearing here for my observations. Staff has made it very clear that they have on record the amount of utilities that were not used, observations of activity on the property. If you're just storing stuff in a building, I don't know that meets the occupancy requirement within city code. And I want to be careful not to do too much back and forth, but Bert, is there something you need to add here?
Bert Dross, planning staff for the city. I would just point out, I know we've talked about two different triggers. Really, the most important one was the change in use, and that change in use really happened several years ago. This property has been trying to get their site plan approved for quite a while now. When they changed the use, they were required to do a site plan, and the city allowed them to operate. It's taken them this long to get through the site plan process, which is really what is requiring the sign to be removed. So it's been known for many years that it's had to come down. It's just drug out longer than it often does.
So the previous owner should have known that and disclosed that to the buyer, or did the buyer know that?
I don't know that the previous owner knew that, because they were, I guess, considered legal nonconforming. It's when, to have that sign, it's when that contractor's office use ceased, and then the use of the property started to be used for auto repair. That was really the main trigger that required the pole sign to come down.
So the vacancy timing, well, according to staff, that they failed that, but that is not the primary or only trigger.
They're both listed as triggering events in Chapter 134. It's just, even if there's a question on one, there's no question on the other.
Okay, all right. And if we do have neighboring development, site plans for that have to have proper setbacks and driveways and not be crowding and blocking other people and all that too, right?
Yeah. And they could have an 8-foot tall monument sign.
Here at this
on this property, right up to the property line, as long as it's not within a vision clearance triangle for the driveway entrance.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, to clarify Julian's question, I appreciate your information. So we're still in closed session here, so board members, any other thoughts on this? If there's no other discussion, would there be a motion one way or the other to either grant the variance request or to recommend staff recommendations for denial? Marlis?
I would move to deny the request.
Okay. All right, we got a second there. And before we go to vote, Heather, as a courtesy to you, do you have anything you wanted to add before we vote?
It's just that I'm surprised that the company who gave them, it sounds like there wasn't a permit, because when you would do a sign permit, you would probably find out that the pole sign wasn't allowed. So that I would be voting for I would be voting staff recommendation to deny.
Okay, thanks for your input. So we have a motion by Marla, second by Rhonda for denial. All those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. All right, Heather?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so motion carries 7-0 for denial. So unfortunately, pole sign's got to come down. Work with staff on trying to find a monument sign that works. I think you'll get great visibility from that. And that's a very important condition for us to look at improving our corridors, especially Douglas and the Merle Hay corridor. This was a key for many years to try to bring our pole signs down and move our signage forward. Okay, so that'll bring us then to item 4, a conditional use request at 5805. Do I have that right?
Yes,
Let's
Mr. Chair.
see. Yeah, 5805 Fleur Drive.
All right, Mr. Chair, members of the board, Bert Ross, planning staff for the city. Item number 4 is a request for a conditional use for a retail sales tobacco store use. It's located in the MX3 mixed-use district. They would be using up to 1,920 square feet of an existing building for the use. They're proposing to sell vapor, tobacco, and tobacco-related products. They're not proposing any sales of wine or beer or alcohol at this time. So this site is located on the east side of Fleur Drive, just to the north of Highview Drive. If you see the cursor here, this is the main entrance to the Des Moines International Airport. The tenant would be occupying the north half of this existing structure, and you can see from the aerial that this property is already really tight with regards to parking and paving setbacks. Some photos I'll show you here shortly will drive that fact home. This is a narrative that the applicant provided with their application. Just says the proposed hours. They'd be closing at midnight, except on Fridays and Saturdays they'd want to be open until 2 a.m. I can come back to this later if needed. This is the floor plan they provided. So the west is at the top, which would be the front door. And then this is the sketch they provided that shows parking in front of the business, which the photos here will show that existing parking. So this is another sketch they provided that shows they would operate within the north half. So these are the photos. Again, they're non-conforming head-in parking spaces. There's about 5 parking spaces on the front and a couple in the back. So here's the staff recommendation and staff report. I will point out that we had put 2 sets of review criteria in the staff report. The first set was extraneous. We should have left it out. It relates to if beer and wine sales were proposed. Since they're not proposing beer and wine sales, those review criteria are not applicable. So again, in our staff reports, you can just delete this first section of criteria, which has requirements 1 through 5. So we'll ignore this section today. So the board's forced to base its decision really on the 9 criteria that are applicable to any conditional uses. And a couple of those are, like the first one is the proposed geographic location and operation of the use would adequately safeguard the health, safety, and general welfare of persons in the surrounding area. We believe that because of the limited parking availability on the property, as well as the maneuvering really right onto Fleur Drive, we don't believe that putting a tobacco store here would be appropriate. We just think there would be congestion on the streets. Vehicles might have to park in the adjoining residential neighborhoods. So again, these 9 criteria, in order to grant the conditional use, they would have to satisfy all of these, and staff does not believe that all of these have been satisfied. So we have recommended denial of the conditional use permit. We did receive a couple of emails and then some comment cards back. This first one is from the Water South Neighborhood Association. They're in opposition to the conditional use for the tobacco store. And I'll scroll through this quickly, but I can come back to it later if you need me to. And then this next one is from a resident in the area. They echo some of the same concerns the neighborhood association raised. And here's the consent map. We received a few cards back. There is one card in opposition from the Southwestern Hills neighborhood, which is across Fleur Drive to the west. Yeah, this first one is from the Southwestern Hills neighborhood. Then they were required to hold a neighborhood outreach meeting. I can let the applicant speak to this, but in reading their summary, they were very honest that they received a lot of negative feedback with concerns from people who did attend their neighborhood meeting. Again, just to reiterate our staff recommendation, we have recommended denial on the basis that it doesn't satisfy those 9 criteria for any conditional use. Any questions for me?
Questions for Bert? Bert, I'm pretty familiar with this location as a South Sider, but just where it sits, but I can't remember what had been in here on one side or the other. It had seemed very quiet.
I believe it was an office use of some
Right.
sort, but it's been vacant for quite a while, unfortunately.
Okay, all right. So based on, even as a related thing, based on vacancy, even if we wanted to approve this, they would have to then do new site plan requirements, is that correct?
We've had some changes in our zoning
Okay.
ordinance, or Chapter 135 as of late, so I'm not sure that a site plan would necessarily be required.
Okay.
But if it would go to a significant change in use, then yes, a site plan would still be required.
And even if it didn't, if we look at what's been discussed, the customer parking would primarily be, quote, up front, just kind of based on the layout here, it looks like there's some kind of a sidewalk still there. Would they have to like maneuver in or over the sidewalk with vehicles to be able to properly
Yeah.
get in and out to park?
Yeah, their site sketch shows they would have about 6 head-in parking spaces. But you can see from the photos that, if you figure a parking space is roughly 18 feet deep, by the time you have a car length here, there is
Right.
no way to not maneuver over the sidewalk.
And generally with our city ordinances, the goal is we don't use public sidewalks as maneuvering space to position yourself for
Correct.
parking, except for a driveway that would cross the sidewalk.
Right. If they were to do a site plan, they would be required to put some sort of curb
As well.
to protect the sidewalk, and then that would
Okay.
probably render those parking spaces ineffective.
Because I think the neighborhoods talk to the congestion here and sidewalks, but there's a lot of people that walk to the different parking lots here across the street from the airport. I see it all the time with luggages and suitcases. People park at Keck and park at the municipal lots to the south and then walk to the airport. Sometimes they skip the shuttle. Okay, that's the
I
only,
guess I would point out that Frank clarified that the site sketch they showed, that I was right. So the 6 spaces are in front along Fleur Drive, and then there's two to the back, so they could get about 7 or 8 parking spaces on the thing.
that's not shown to scale or anything, that's
No,
just
it's not.
concept drawing.
Right.
Got it.
Yep.
All right, any other questions for Bert? Julian, yeah, go ahead.
Are they required to have the parking positioned the way they are, or do they have the opportunity to do a diagonal? Would that improve any of the safety concerns?
So what's there is probably considered legal nonconforming and could remain, but if the use would change, then would require, if not a full engineered site plan, some sort of site sketch that shows that those spaces are functional. And you're probably right that if they would do some sort of angle, they could maybe get a few spaces there, but the placement of the driveway right if you see from this aerial, there's a new drive approach right at the middle. So it wouldn't, I don't know, without moving that drive approach, I don't know that they would be able to adequately serve all the spaces if they were, access all the spaces if they were all angled.
Other questions for Bert? Okay, well, thanks for kicking us off with the background on the location and the request. So let's hear from the applicant. Is the applicant here today? Good afternoon, gentlemen. If you've seen how the hearing works, we just need you to sign in there with your names and address as appropriate. And then just tell us who you are when you get ready to speak, and you got up to 10 minutes.
So, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Can we just have your name, and then you're welcome to address the board.
So he's Zaidullah Salarza and I'm Shakib Ramiti. I'm interpreting for him.
Okay.
استا موضوع ست موضوع دغه چې دغه ځین سی یو د ترازی خپل شاپ جوړي په کې دغه شیان ورته وایا
زغړم چې ما مخکې یو بل بزنس لره په 2500 مارتن لوتر کینګ جونیئر کې هلته ما یو کال شو ما بزنس ډېر ناکام دی ما غوښتل چې زه د 505 لور ډرایو دلته راموف شم ما دا هغو سره لیز کړی دی او زه غواړم چې هلته راشم.
So he already have a business at Martin Luther King, so he just wanted to shift this new place at Floor Drive, and he already signed the agreement with the landlord.
Mm-hmm. And where's the existing business again? What's the address?
Address is
2500 Martin Luther King.
2500 Martin Luther King Junior Parkway.
Okay, all right. So it's not on the south side near here, it's the north side of Des Moines, but he wants to move it down here.
Yeah,
Okay. And he's already signed a lease.
yeah.
Did he understand that he should probably check with the city about the use first to make sure it'd be approvable before signing the lease?
وای تا دغه معلوماتو چې تا د شخه شاروالۍ نه دا تپوس کړی وي چې د دې نه مخکې ته امضا وکړي ته لاړ شي دغه شي یا دغه ځای ته لاړ شي دغه شی شروع کړي.
مت سیټي والا ویله چې ته لیز راوړه چې موږ به تا ته دې لپاره اپلای وکړو.
Okay, so the city just told him that you have to just bring us your lease agreement, then we can just approve it. So actually he don't know about the rules and regulations, so that's why there is a miscommunication happen.
Got it. Got it. And again, just kind of summarize what, I realize it's like primarily a tobacco store, but what type of business activity, how long would customers be there? Just give us a typical day.
ها وای لکه په څومره ستا دغه مشتریان څومره راځي وای څومره وخت لپاره باندې اوسي لکه ډېر وخت نیسي او که نه لکه ستا مشتریان څنګه دي
د زوړ ځای کې نه ځي.
نه نوي ځای کې چې راځي ته یا په زوړ ځای کې څومره وخت لپاره راځي اوسي دې کار صحیح
دا څوک راشي یو سیګرټ والی یو بل شی والی 15 دقیقې یا 2 دقیقې یا 3 دقیقې.
So almost they are spending just a 5 minutes to 10 minutes or 3 minutes, not more than that.
Okay. Got it. What else would you like to add?
نور پکې څه وایي اضافه کول غواړي؟
زه به یو خپل ستونزه درته ووایم ما په افغانستان کې د امریکا د سپیشل ځواکونو سره وظیفه درلودله. ما ډېر بزنسونه افغانستان کې لرل. د افغانستان د طالبانو راتګ زما هر څه صفر کړل. زما ماشومان زما مېرمن هم هلته پاتې شول. نو تقریبا 4 کاله دا د روان سپټمبر کې 4 کاله پوره کیږي نو زه په صفر کوم ما اوس به شروع وکړل چې یاره زه به روزګار روان کوم نو مهرباني وکړئ که دلته څه ګنجایش کیږي او چاته ستونزه نه نو زه غواړم دلته روزګار شروع کړم او کار وکړم.
Yeah, so actually he is a former military and he was working with the U.S. forces in Afghanistan. So when he came to United States, then he started doing business. So he just set up that shop there, and actually he spent a year so it's not like benefiting him. So that's why he just find a new place to just move on and he can start something new. So he wants if it's possible, so he can just start this new business in the new place.
Okay. Board members, any questions? Julian?
With the person that you leased the property from, one, did they discuss any of the zoning pieces with you? Then two, is there any way for the lease to be terminated if this were to be denied?
The lease we ته درته ویلي وو چې چېرته کې دا په دغه ځوب کې رانه شي ستا دا لیز به ختمېږي یا دلته به دوی ته معاش ټاکنه ورکوي
او دا هم سره ما ویلي
تا ته یې ویلي
او
وو yeah they discussed it.
What about the second question?
Sorry, what was the second question?
So if this request was denied today, is there any language in the lease agreement or contract that specifies that the lease could be terminated or there could be a request to terminate the lease?
دا چې شته که دغه مجلس کې دغه چېرته خلاص شي نو دغه ستا قرارداد هغه سره خلاصېږي.
نو زه به وګورم نه داسې به څه نه چې دلته تاسې ما ته اجازه را نه کړې
نو لکه خو ستا قرارداد کې څه لیکل شوي که دوی اجازه ورنه کړه او تا دلته مخکې ویلي په کاغذ کې که چېرته ما ته اجازه را نه کړه نو زه به تا دا قرارداد فسخه کوم یا فسخه کېږي.
ما د جاج سره همداسې ویل کړي دي هغه زه به تا ته قرارداد جوړ کړم او دغسې
Okay. So right now, they only just already discussed it. So there is no written paper or something.
All right. Other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. You can go ahead and sit down, and we'll check back in with you here in a few minutes. Is there anybody here in the audience who wishes to speak in support of the applicant's request? Anybody to speak in support? Seeing none, is there anybody that wishes to speak in opposition? I see one hand up. Come on up, sir. We just need you to sign in with your name and address as appropriate, and you've got up to 5 minutes to address the board.
Forgive me for taking a little bit. I didn't thought I'd have to use my own product.
That's quite all right.
You don't mind if I approach the board?
Well, actually, you just want to give her your information for the record? Okay, all right.
First of all, thank you, Chairman and board members, for your unselfish dedication and volunteering for such an important board that is certainly of vibrant use for businesses and citizens here in Des Moines. My name is Jerome L. Bradley, B-R-A-D-L-E-Y. I am a member at large for the South of Watrous Neighborhood Association. I'm a born and raised South Sider. I have a large family that come from the South Side. And I certainly want to thank these gentlemen for their services in Afghanistan. Being a military pilot and serving in those areas, I know what kind of support that is. But with that being said, if you take a look, and first of all, the gentleman did quite a job covering some of the spaces that I was going to talk about. But when you take a look at what they're proposing. First of all, you have a $750 million airport project going in on the west side of Fleur Drive. That is undoubtedly the largest public works program when it involves an airport in the entire state. I think we've done an excellent job from Grand Avenue to Watrous, from Watrous to Army Post. It's still been pretty well taken care of. Excuse me. This business really doesn't have a place in the projected request of what they want to use it for. First of all, there's a safety factor with only 3 parking spaces. Pulling out on the Fleur Drive at any time is a definite gamble. They only have a couple of parking spaces in the rear, which could create a conflict with existing businesses that have been long established along that corridor. Secondly, there are a number of shops selling this same product within about a mile radius. C-stores, vape shops, and I think we all understand that vaping is somewhat of a hazard since it seems to target young people. I feel that the building could be improved and maybe used for something other than what this request is for. I've taken an informal survey of the surrounding areas, and I have found a 92% opposed to this type of an operation going in on Fleur Drive. I think that we should be able to control what passengers and visitors to our dear city come when they're coming to the airport and departing. The building was never set up for an operation that would be considered commercial. Before that, it was used as a travel agency. And they had very few parking spaces. So if you sum everything up, you have a safety issue, you've got a parking issue, you've got, at best, a marginal business exposure-wise to people coming in and out of Des Moines. And when all of those things are taken into consideration, I would certainly like the board to deny this approval for conditional use. It serves no purpose. There are other things that could go in there. And the businesses that are existing along the east side of Fleur Drive have worked pretty darn hard to make their businesses attractive. And so with that being said, I'd certainly be more than happy to entertain any questions that you might have.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Bradley? All right. Well, sir, we appreciate your comments, and we also thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You bet. Okay, is there anybody else that wishes to speak in opposition? And you've seen how this works, so we just need you to sign in quickly and just give us your name, and you've got up to 5 minutes.
My Mr. Sticker. Hello, I'm Jenny Barker. I'm actually a resident. You can see my home lot at 2016 on the map there. I actually can see this business from my backyard, so I'm just a few steps away. I moved to South Lawn over 5 years ago. Since that time, I've done a lot of the work in revitalizing my neighborhood. I've also met all of my neighbors who have been in that neighborhood I actually have a photo of my 92-year-old neighbor as she was like a toddler in the front lawn. It's very established with a lot of older generation. I'm probably the youngest that's been in the neighborhood in a while. It's one of the concerns I have about this is that as people's children grow and move out of the home, obviously there's a transition. They move and younger families come in. It's a very affordable neighborhood. My house was $140,000. And as a single parent, I welcome younger families coming to that area. I do have concerns about the corporate businesses that are along Fleur Drive. One of the ones being that when I moved in, I did actually a lot of research living across from the neighborhood. I can see airplanes flying and landing from my backyard. Some people like it. Sometimes it's a nuisance. But I had a lot of known understandings of what I was getting into. I understood some of the other businesses in the area and kind of understood what type of business activities they would have. One thing that I will say is there is a high saturation of very similar businesses. There's the House of Glass, which is directly behind my neighbor's house, and then the BP as well. Both all sell very similar products. I will say at the neighborhood meeting, the proposed tenant did not deny alcohol. So it wasn't presented yet, but I'm very curious on, I know you mentioned that that wouldn't be part of his business case use, but it was left very vague if he would bring alcohol into that as well. One thing that I will say that's reiterated from what's already been said is at that neighborhood meeting, we witnessed people trying to get out of that business. It has not had any vacancy since I've lived there. But they did go completely over the sidewalk to get out, and then because you're essentially the same way that Fleur, it's like a very strong blind spot to see. I also think it's worth noting that the stoplight from the airport is just right there, so it's just a very highly congested area. My daughter is at Brody Middle School, and for 2 days now I've watched her get off the bus. Her bus stop is she can either get off at the BP there, which is Highview, or she can go to Porter. So any kids that are getting off of the BP Highview literally would be crossing that sidewalk. They would also be passing two similar businesses that sell vape and tobacco. And then she crosses over House of Glass, which also has very similar products. Other things that has already been kind of mentioned, but I'll reiterate, is that business has been vacant. I love all the investment that the city has made into the Fleur Drive area, the airport, especially the entrance. It's made it a lot safer. I will say that there's a lot of unknown things that come against home buyers. One thing I didn't realize living close to the airport was the light pollution, the odors coming from the airport, the shuttle buses that go up and down our streets. We now actually have Uber and Lyft drivers parking on our streets for a waiting area. And I say all this to say that like one more business is just one more thing against the homeowners in that area. I think I hit all my points, but let me just double check. Again, I really think that this will hurt my the neighborhood, hit our prices for our homes in a very time that I see a lot of potential for transition and ownership. The first day of school, again, my daughter's in middle school, I said, "How was your bus ride?" And she said, "There's an 8th grader vaping on the bus." So I want you to consider that when you put a vape shop right next to a bus stop that's actually in between those spots. That's all I have.
Well, Jenny, I thank you for your comments. If we have any questions, would you be willing to answer any?
Yep.
Anybody got questions for Jenny? I've just got a brief one. You had mentioned your address, and I can't quite see the addresses there, but
Yeah.
are you on South Lawn?
Yeah.
Is the property marked red that you were, or
No,
to you?
I'm actually the one that has like the writing. So there's two very long, that one there, that's my property.
Is that it right
So
there?
my
where
house is
Staff circling?
Yep, the Circle
Okay,
Drive, yeah.
gotcha.
And
Okay.
so from my neighborhood, there is like a fence, like a 6-foot fence.
Sure.
But I can see the back of House of Glass, which is
Yep.
a similar business, and then I can see this business as well, and I can actually see the corner of the BP. So I have,
Good
I
view,
can actually
huh?
see all 3 tobacco places from my backyard.
And just with your observation, I'm driving by all these things on Fleur pretty regular, but you live right there. Are there a lot of pedestrians that do use that sidewalk when they're walking to the parking lots for CAC or the
Yes.
city
So-
airport parking 1 and 2 with their luggage? Do you see that a lot?
Yeah, unfortunately, many of the residents in that area will probably say that we're like de facto free airport parking. We have residents that like just park there all the time. Also, my driveway is airport parking for my friends, so they walk up to the airport. With the sidewalk that you guys have put in, it has increased foot traffic immensely for that.
Okay.
So it's essentially, the
Wait.
sidewalk is essentially the parking lot.
If you do have problems with long-term street parking, is that what you're saying? People leave
Yes.
their car on the street for days at a time?
Yes, as
In the-
well as the Uber drivers.
In the city of Des Moines, a car parked on a city street has to move once every 24 hours.
Well, I
Huge
would love
surprise.
your support in getting the Uber drivers off my street. When he mentioned his hours are up to 2 a.m., I have
Yeah.
Uber drivers sitting
If
outside.
they're temporary,
my
and
driveway.
again, we're not here to adjudicate.
No, I understand that. I'm just
but-
saying in a.
But yeah, but if somebody wants to just park their car on the street and go to Fort Lauderdale for a week, they can't do that. So if you see a car parked on the street for over 24 hours, call the police department, call the traffic unit. Do it.
I'd rather have the Uber drivers, the man who sits
Okay,
outside my
you'd
home.
rather get rid of them. Gotcha. All right, well, thank you for your comments, appreciate you coming down today. Anybody else that wishes to speak in opposition? And you've seen the procedure, just need you to sign in with your name, address, and just give us your name, and you got up to 5 minutes.
Hello everyone, my name is Hardeep, last name Balagan, and I own that BP next to that shop. So just want to oppose it because we have tobacco license too. So then there is another one, tobacco license next to that. So we don't need that many shops, it's going to affect our business. So that's all I want to say. So,
Appreciate you coming down today, and I think you put some new landscaping in the last few years there.
Yeah, yeah.
Looks pretty good.
yeah, thank you. Yeah,
Yes.
Thanks.
Any questions? Okay, thank you. Anybody else in opposition?
Good afternoon. My name is Rachel Gulick. I own House of Glass and the property that it sits on. We've been in business in this location since 2014, and when we moved in, there was nothing. It was vacant. The parking lot was a mess. Nothing had been done to the property since the Quiznos went out, which was for years.
And you're talking about
I'm
your
talking about
property?
my property
Okay.
real quick.
Okay. Yep.
Let me talk about this property. Specifically, my number one concern is the safety and the parking piece. There is no way to access the back of this building for this tenant or the tenants to the south without utilizing my lot. The narrow access between the buildings that Airport Signs and Graphics is in and this particular location is never used by those tenants. And so all of that burden of traffic falls on my lot. The property line itself is on the building. So, when the previous owner, when the travel center was there for decades and decades, they would often park on that north side of the building, and we just allowed it because we were new to town, or to that location, and so I wanted to make good with our neighbors. There's no way for vehicles to pull off of Fleur heading north, pull into their parking lot, and additionally pull out of their drive. When we had our community meeting, every single person that attended that meeting that parked in the front of the building had to drive out of my parking lot. And when all of the work was done along Fleur Drive, we've endured that for the past 6 to 8 years. as the construction for that project ended and they replaced some of the curbs, nothing was done to mitigate the mess from the construction, and I realize that's another issue, but the reality is that this building that New York is looking to move into, nothing's happened to it since Travel Center went out. And in fact, there's been no maintenance of the property since Travel Center went out. And when their sign blew out during a storm and there were broken tubes of glass on the ground, it was my business that cleaned it up because we care about the safety of our neighborhood. Feel what you want about our industry. We are people running businesses, paying taxes, and we are showing up here today. So I think that should demonstrate what kind of citizens we are. We make it a point to not entertain children. That's why every person that enters our building has to present an ID. And, the state of Iowa has not made it particularly easy on our industry in the past 6 months. $3,000 in permits in 6 months is a lot to ask of a small business. And as someone who's born and raised in Des Moines and decided to invest everything back into this community, it feels like we could catch a break from time to time. I wish Mr. Salazari the best of luck in his business venture. I ask that you deny this request primarily because of the saturation in the neighborhood. Obviously, I have a vested interest in my business next door, but ultimately, the reality is that it's not a feasible space that would accommodate the sort of in and out convenience style business that they are communicating is their desire to put in here. And if we could speak to parking just a little bit more along South Lawn, I mean, the cabbies, it's long been an issue in the 2014, here we are, gosh, 12 years that we've been in this location, and that's something we battled when we first moved in as well. But, it's part of living next to the airport. And another reality is if we look at the context of this neighborhood specifically and the history, there used to be a substance abuse clinic just down the way. We've had a lot of migrant activity over the years that we as a business have tried to mitigate through lighting, which, I realize it's bright, but it also keeps people from camping out in your dumpster and going through it and then, having to deal with that mess. And despite our best efforts, that still happens. But Fleur Drive is one of the most prominent thoroughways in the city of Des Moines. It has a lot of pressure in terms of traffic. There are numerous accidents at that intersection of South Lawn, especially since the shifting of the access to the airport moved south. It used to be that people would pull in like they were pulling into the airport on the north entrance. So, I think that our industry gets a really bad rep. I think it's not just the responsibility of business owners to educate the public on the liabilities of partaking in nicotine or whatnot, but also parents. And I'm not saying that that's not happening, but kids are going to access things through a variety of channels. And as a business in this neighborhood that does care about maintaining safety first and foremost, I just want to make folks aware that we do things differently, and professionality is of the utmost importance, and we're just trying to run businesses. So, I don't think I have anything else to say. Let me just check my notes.
Well, Rachel, we give folks 5 minutes. I gave you just a shade over that. So,
thank you.
But as far as your presentation, I do have a question, and maybe my colleagues might too. So you're not just the business owner, you truly own the property as well, is
I
that correct?
do.
Okay, so in Iowa law, you have something called an abstract. That's that's all the history of your property.
Right.
If there are any easements, right-of-ways, or any contractual agreements for people to use your property to access their property, that would be in your abstract.
Right.
To the best of your knowledge, do you know of any agreements when you bought it that would have allowed that business, whoever they are to the south, to use your property as their driveway or their access or their parking?
There are no easements on the property.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And just to clarify, South Lawn is to your north. From Fleur Drive southbound, there is a left turn lane there. So South Lawn is the only place on your block where people can turn to go back south on Fleur, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. And I see people all the time that miss the, quote, new entrance, and then they're trying to turn left and blocking the left through lane. I've been on the city on that. I hope that signage we approved earlier will rectify that.
The no U-turn at South Lawn?
Yeah.
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 It's that and one more spot down would be important
Yeah,
too.
because there's no protected left turn lane there.
May I offer up one other piece of information
Very
that
quickly.
I think pertinent? So this is the second business that has now attempted to go into this location. The other was a flight school, and they put, to my knowledge, about $30,000 of investment into the property to move in, and then for whatever reason had to pull out. Are they still stuck with that lease as well? And if that is the case, and now we have a second business that's attempting to go into a location that is very difficult to navigate and probably very difficult to get the zoning changed or the occupancy permit, are we picking up on a pattern here? That's my question.
And our board doesn't manage, leases, that's outside of our hearing
Right.
process, but that's why I always suggest to people, come ask us first for what you
Sure.
want for uses, and then they can work on leases later. Any other questions we'd have for Rachel? All right, thank you for coming down today. Anybody else to speak in opposition?
I just need to sign.
Sure, if you need to sign, that's fine, but as you've already spoke, we'll see, is there anybody else that wishes to speak in opposition? If none, anybody wishes to speak in neutrality, any related facts to the case, even if you're not for or against? Seeing none, do we have any further questions for staff? I do have one. It's related to, now we've had a few folks that have said, well, I'm already here and I sell tobacco, we don't need another one, there's too many already. This conditional use, the rationale, is there any distance separation between these types of uses in the ordinance?
No, there's not any distance separations. Like a liquor store, for instance, you would have to be at least a quarter mile from any existing liquor store, but for tobacco or vape shops, there's nothing in that. So that's not really a criteria. The board can make their decision on. So you can't say, oh, there's already 6 places selling vape in this area, we don't need another. That can't be criteria. And also, you can't get into the morality of tobacco products or anything like that.
I appreciate that as well.
So really, the decision has to be based on the 9 criteria. Is this the proper location? Where, again, to reiterate, staff doesn't believe, given the parking situation.
Yep, I got you. All right, I appreciate you addressing my question and also your thoughts on your other observation. Any other questions for staff? Okay. Applicant, since there were some people opposed to this, you have 3 minutes for a rebuttal. If there's anything you want to add to discuss your operation or based on things folks have said, if you'd like to respond in any way, you've got up to 3 minutes. It's your choice. So are you guys okay? Okay. It is what it is? Okay. All right, then we'll close the public portion and go to board deliberations. Any initial thoughts, folks? I might just lead off with one thing here. I appreciate what Bert said for clarification on our decision-making. This isn't about how many tobacco shops are already in the area. Certainly any business owner, whether they're down the block or next door, probably doesn't want competition. But that's not our call on density. And secondly, Whether we look at juveniles, health effects, morality, and not that there is a problem with people who want to enjoy tobacco one way or the other, I have no comment on that. But that's not part of our decision-making. It's really, how does this fit with its design, construction, and operation for the general welfare of persons in and around the adjoining residential area and the area just as a whole. Again, I don't like to do this a lot, but I'm a South Sider. Drive by this 2 to 4 times a day. This business is impossible to get into from the north. You'd have to cut onto South Lawn at the left turn and then drive through Rachel's place, or you'd have to approach it driving northbound. To get in there, I see no way that anybody can maneuver on that site without using the sidewalk. The applicant didn't appear to address any of that. I look at the use itself for this site. I don't try to compare it, well, I know one over here. But I've seen a lot of tobacco shops, when they have a lot of parking even, they are busy. There's a bunch on Southwest 9th. I got to watch when I commute. There's always somebody wanting to turn in, turn out. They may have plenty of parking. This place does not. So tobacco shops, if they're doing a great job, they're going to have a lot of business. And there's just not enough parking here. It's not accessible. It's not maneuverable. And by default, they'd have to rely on other private landowners, in essence, trespassing on their property. So in good stead, with this kind of density, I can't support this in any kind of good faith. But those are just my observations. Anybody else? Well, if there's other comments, so be, but I'm going to make a recommendation to deny the requested conditional use for the tobacco use store without the sale of wine or beer as presented.
I'll second.
All right, motion by Mel, second by Marlis. All in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Tom's in. Heather?
Aye.
All right, so motion carries 7-0. Sorry about that, guys. I would suggest that you, again, check on uses first before signing leases. That wasn't what our decision was based on, but work with staff first to see if things are practical for uses, especially from legal access to properties. All right, we're going to move on to item 5, a conditional use request at 1536 2nd Avenue. This is also related to some retail sales of tobacco.
Good afternoon, Chair, members of the board, Frank Dunn, planning staff. So 1536 2nd Avenue, MT LLC is the owner of the property, Michael Pike, representative. The proposing use of 1,000 square feet of area within the existing building for retail sales, tobacco store use. Essentially, they'd be selling premium handmade cigars and cigar-related accessories, including but not limited to lighters, cutters, butane ashtrays, humidors, and the like. This requires a conditional use for retail sales selling tobacco. The applicant is not proposing to sell wine or beer. The property is zoned I-1 industrial use, so the property does allow for the use subject to being granted a conditional use. So similar criteria is what we had before. You can see the property as before, meaning the last item that we just heard. The property is in yellow or orange box here. It is on the west side of 2nd Avenue, in between what would be College Avenue and Clark Street. The building is approximately 6,400 square feet. Couple images of the site, that's more of a close-up. And then another image. The applicant is proposing to use the 1,000 square foot area retail space as an open humidor with cabinets that would house the premium cigars. The remainder of the the proper premises he uses for plumbing and office space, he would maintain that. And so he is the primary user of the premises and owner. So the existing HVAC plumbing business would continue to occupy that remaining area. The property itself provides approximately 10 parking stalls. So in accordance with the city code, they would be required to provide 1 parking stall per 2 staff for the plumbing, HVAC use, and then 4 parking stalls for office and retail use as well. This means essentially, since they have 10 parking stalls, they'd have an excess of 5 parking stalls for the premises. The applicant is proposing that the tobacco shop would be open Monday through Saturday, and from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Here is a layout. I'll zoom in. Okay, so layout of the premises. So you can see what would be the parking area, street this direction, over to the right. Sales floor, 1,000 square feet would be this area. And here is a layout that they've proposed. And kind of a conceptual rendering, if you will. And a narrative. We can always come back to this if you'd like. No alterations are being considered for the premises other than maybe a fresh coat of paint at this time. So I am going to the 5 criteria, similar to before, would be particular to if they were selling beer and wine. Since they are doing that, we would have 9 criteria that we would look at for the premises. Staff does believe that the use as proposed would adequately safeguard the health, safety, and general welfare of persons residing in the area. We believe that it's located along a commercial corridor. It's separated from residents both by surface parking lot and alleyway. The access to the premises would be from 2nd Avenue, and so there is separation there. Staff believes that the proposed use would not unduly increase congestion in the street, diminish nearby property values, or have a detrimental impact on the use and enjoyment of adjoining properties. So we believe that if it operates in accordance with the recommended conditions of approval, it wouldn't constitute a nuisance. And so staff is recommending approval with typical conditions for a tobacco store use. And I'll scroll through those. And we did send out notices. We did receive a comment back from Neighborhood Association who attended the meeting. Neighbors within proximity, within 250 feet, are noticed. These neighbors responded back in support. What questions do you have for staff?
Board members, Marlis.
I just have a quick one. What did you say the hours of business? are going
Yes,
to be?
the hours of business would be Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., and then on Sunday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Okay.
And I can scroll back up to that narrative that we had looked at before.
Oh,
z-
okay, I missed that.
Zoom.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And Frank, just to clarify, I know this is primarily a tobacco store, but 3 different times in the staff report, the appeal states no more than 25% of gross receipts could come from the sale of wine or beer, alcohol. You recommend no alcohol sales, and then it also says the applicant has agreed to no alcohol sales. So there's not going to be any alcohol sales here, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Was that something that by default could be allowed earlier, or they had dabbled with the concept and
No, the applicant was pretty clear
they didn't?
the entire time, no alcohol.
Okay. All right.
I believe that the point in clarifying that is because tobacco stores can apply if they have the appropriate zoning district and met the applicable criteria that they could have beer and wine sales.
Okay.
And so it was important, we want to distinguish the difference between that.
And as a condition, we can really clarify that and stamp that there will not be any alcohol sales, correct? With your recommendation
Correct.
for staff rec, okay? Anybody else? Julian?
So driving down Second right now, we have a lot of road construction. Is that anything that needs to be in consideration for safety precaution? Because I think currently, right now, if you're going south, you're on the sidewalk, technically, driving.
Great question. In terms of businesses for the area, traffic looks at the access that they have and are to maintain. I believe that the condition is temporary, so with the appropriate, I guess, signs, safety markings that should be fine, considering that those access points are an authorized point for by traffic and transportation.
And we'll all be thankful when Second Avenue is done and improved. But Frank, for clarification on that, could you put the aerial photo back up?
Yes.
Because driveway access, then, do they have access off a side street as well?
Yeah, and it's a unique
'Cause
situation.
this was Doherty's Flowers, right? Yeah, I bought stuff in there before, yeah.
Sorry.
So we got the one driveway.
So
Keep it going. There we go.
I'm going to get to this and zoom in. The zoom.
Somehow this seems to have been easier back in the day. Did you just make up one massive PDF nowadays?
Well, I think that there was an update.
There we go.
Adobe, so it
Okay.
kind of manipulates how we set those up, and we don't have that ironed out.
Yeah,
So,
I'm just teasing you.
so what you see is there is an alleyway that
Okay.
runs along here.
So there's 2 drives in essence.
Mhm.
that-
Yep, so they would generally access point here.
Yep,
And here.
over there.
This is, while they can access this,
Sure.
that would probably be, as much access by these other
Sure. Yeah.
business owners.
But it's a public right-of-way to get in and out.
Yeah.
Right, gotcha. Okay. All right, anything else? Heather, anything?
Nope, nothing from me.
Great, thank you. Okay, well, thank you, Frank. All right, applicant or representative of the applicant. You've waited patiently, it's your turn. So you've seen how this goes. We just need you to sign in there and then give us your name. You got up to 10 minutes.
Thank you, members of the board. I don't know how much more I could say. I think it was explained pretty well. I would obviously reiterate, this is a premium tobacco store selling only premium tobacco. You can see by the hours, 10 to 6 Monday through Saturday, 10 to 4 Sunday, that it is, likely being utilized throughout the day for people driving by on 2nd Avenue. Oftentimes, as 2nd Avenue will be opened up more for a kind of relief to Ankeny. I imagine that'll get quite a bit of traffic through there. I am, sorry, excuse me, Michael Pike, 1536
Okay.
2nd Avenue.
All right.
Sorry about that.
All right, so you're the owner-operator here, huh?
Correct,
Okay.
correct.
All right.
I would, can I address as far as the traffic flow issue?
Sure.
So mine's one of the few, and you can kind of see
Can we
it.
turn the mic down or something? How are we getting all this feedback?
You can see a bit from this aerial. My sidewalk is pushed back. Thankfully now, we are traveling north and south on the east side of the road. So that's progress.
Yeah,
We're
right.
traveling on new asphalt now, one. Secondly, I don't intend to open this until that 2nd Avenue corridor is completely done. That would be essentially a death sentence to try and get people to a location when you're trying to get them to maneuver through traffic or through the road construction. So this will likely be July or August of next year, from what I understand, talking to city personnel that are dealing with this project. I think there were some delays on underground work and whatnot on 2nd Avenue, but I would not be officially opening this until that point. Really don't have anything else. Open any questions?
Mike, when I saw the conceptual drawings and kind of the description staff gave, the closest example I could think of, there used to be a David's Briar shop that was like the fancy tobaccos and cigars and pipes. Is that, not exactly like that, but you're not selling Swisher Sweets here.
Oh, no. This is Swisher what? No. These are all premium handmade cigars, so they're all,
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
Not $8 for an entire pack.
Right.
$8 individually.
Yeah, so some guy that looks like Winston Churchill would hang out in your lobby.
There might be some pictures of Winston Churchill on the walls.
Okay, I think I get your concept.
Right.
Excellent. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you for presenting.
Thank you.
We'll see what our crowded audience thinks. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak in support of the applicant? Come on up. Just need you to sign in. You've got up to 5 minutes. Just give us your name before you speak.
My name's Elizabeth Lewin, and I live, 7 or 8 blocks away from the proposed shop in the Riverbend neighborhood. I'm part of the Neighborhood Association Board. I'm the secretary there, and I think 4 members of our 9-person board were able to attend the meeting that Mr. Pike hosted, the informational meeting, a week ago? Week and a half ago. At any rate, he answered all of our concerns. I think you might have sort of asked some of those about the previous appellant. It's not going to be a vape shop. They're not going to sell, cartons of cigarettes or anything like that. It's a net positive, I think, for our neighborhood and for the 2nd Avenue corridor. It's something that, other than the pipe tobacco shop on Ingersoll, I don't think there's another one in the area. And it sounds as though it'll be sort of a destination. And anything like that brings in new visitors to our neighborhood is good. I was really super pleased at how cooperative and pleasant Mr. Pike was. I think he'll be a wonderful addition to the neighborhood. It was interesting, the neighbors from the electrical business next door were there also, and they seemed super in support of having that. And even for the time being, while 2nd Avenue is all torn up, I was able, in my tiny car, to navigate in and out of the parking lot just fine. Really, no complaints at all. I think all 4 of the board members that were there at the meeting, we were, full speed ahead. We're looking forward to having him there, not just for his HVAC business, but to be opening a new and different retail shop in the neighborhood. So, thanks.
And I thank you for your service to your neighborhood association. Come on up, just need your name, and then please sign in.
My name is Kim Alberudi. I'm also on the Riverbend Neighborhood Association, and I live probably about 10 blocks away or so. I also attended the meeting, and I actually don't have much to add to what Elizabeth said. She covered everything very well. I think our big concerns were selling vapes, and he doesn't do that. He's not selling cigarettes. We were concerned about access by young people in the neighborhood with Urban Dreams just down the street. The hours are not going to be conducive to that. He's not open late nights. We're not going to have excess traffic in the evenings. I like the idea of it being a destination and bringing new people into the neighborhood and being a premier place to go. And that's pretty much everything I have to add.
Cool. Also appreciate your planting your flag in Riverbend and serving your neighborhood. Thank you. Anybody else to speak in support?
I'm Diana Rezak. I live at 1917 Arlington, so I'm right up the hill from the shop. I believe it's a good idea to have a unique shop in our area that's going to draw public to the area. And also, I'm here because I'm retired and I can come to your meetings that are at 1 p.m. So I am representing a number of our hardworking Riverbend neighbors. So thank you.
And I also thank you, Diana. Anybody else to speak in support? Seeing none, anybody to speak in opposition? Seeing none, any neutrality? All right. Do we have any further questions for staff? Don't see. Frank, something you want to add?
I'd like to note that the conditional use does run with the land, so if you'd like to put a condition in to prohibit vape, that is within your purview.
Because, and hang on a second, because if we do give the conditional approval as a tobacco store, vape is allowed.
Correct.
By default, okay. And I'm not riz or hip with things, but just saying vape is not allowed, that good enough, clear enough?
Just to clarify, currently under our zoning ordinance, vape is not regulated at all. So anybody can have, so they could have vape without a conditional use permit right now under our ordinance as it currently stands.
So how can we ban something that isn't regulated?
I wouldn't recommend that you do that.
Okay. Because Mike said so isn't good enough. Okay. Appreciate great legal counsel to the board here from Gary. Okay. Well, there was nobody in opposition, Mike, so I don't know if you need another 3 minutes. If you're good, we'll just go to board deliberation then. Board members, thoughts? Heather, do you have any thoughts? Since you've been so good to hang in there.
I don't have any thoughts.
Anybody else? Julian?
One, I just wanted to note that I'll abstain from this vote because I am on the board for Urban Dreams, and so just to be fair and respectful.
I do appreciate that, and certainly as it had been mentioned as well. Anybody else? Any thoughts or motions one way or the other here? All right, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve this. I spend a little time on this part of the corridor socially once in a while, so I'm familiar with the area. Used to buy flowers at Doherty's. I was disappointed that they're gone, but by the same token, yes, it'd be great to have a unique business in there. And maybe Mike will sell some flowers, you know.
Actually, I do intend to sell flowers because it's nothing better than buying a box of cigars and bringing home some flowers.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'd be told to smoke them outside. All right. So, let's see, depending on where we're at, did you make the motion or am I? Yeah, all right, so I'm making a motion to approve staff rec for the conditional use as presented. All right, and a second by Rhonda. All those in favor, raise your right hand, say aye. Heather?
Aye.
Aye, so that's 6 yay and 1 abstention with Julian. Okay, all right, the motion carries. We'll have your decision in order by about this time next week. And if you do want to create any new signage on the building or on the property, please check with staff for a sign permit. We'd appreciate that. All right, any other business? I think we have minutes from last month. For those who were here last month, are there any changes to the minutes? If there are none, would there be a motion to approve the minutes? Marlis, motion. Second, Rhonda. All those in favor who were here last month, raise your right hand, say aye. Heather, you were missing last month? No. Was Heather here? No. Okay. So that's 5 A's, got that covered? All right. So we've got our 5 yays, so minutes are approved. If there's no new business, seeing none, this hearing is adjourned.